Yeah.
Okay, welcome everybody to our April 15th board meeting. At this time, Ms. Slade, would you have a word of prayer for us?
Father, we thank you for the truth of the resurrection power of Jesus Christ, and that's what we stand in this morning, Lord, the resurrected Savior who is alive. Father, I pray that in that power we would stand firm as examples to our community. Father, that our first responders would have the courage and the strength that they need for all of the response that is required. Father, thank you for our leadership, and I pray a special word of blessing over them, Lord. Give them incredible wisdom. Father, help them to understand precisely the decisions that need to be made that are in keeping with your will, Father, but also in the best interest of all of our citizens. Father, we have learned a very real truth, and that is that we rely 100% completely upon you. Father, all of the foundations that we have stood upon in the past, Lord, separate and apart from you, we know that they can crumble very easily. So we stand in your word and in your power today and conducting the business of the county. In Christ's name, amen.
Silence your phone. You hadn't already done.
Okay. Dan, would you like to say any public comment?
I can't. Pick the subject. Just
Janice, I guess we don't have anybody?
No, sir.
All right.
The TV's on out my hallway also.
Do I have a motion for the minutes?
So moved.
Motion by Daniel.
Second.
Second by Jared. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye say aye. Consent agenda.
So moved.
Motion by Daniel.
Second.
Second by Jared. Any discussion?
Hang on. Got a discussion from the gallery.
What about,
Yeah, that's
what
different.
about E on the list of schools that shut down?
The what?
Yeah, the schools have shut down the rest of the year.
You wasn't it?
He's talking about the,
Repair, instruction, school, bus turnaround.
We usually don't
Still
work-
spring.
we usually don't work in the schools,
Just get them before they start next year.
Well, I thought we did them at the end.
Well, this says a spring on whatever.
We usually do it in spring and fall.
No,
Spring
no,
2020.
we're not doing the spring. Not a list like this. I haven't seen.
are you not wanting to do them now? What, I mean,
I mean, I usually just don't do them, but, I mean, me and Randy kinda did this thing.
I thought we did them kind of toward the
Yeah,
end
didn't-
of the year, of the season,
You,
carry them
Randy,
through
did what?
until,
We just do it upon request, Jay, you know.
oh,
Well, he's the one requesting, isn't he?
Yes.
Right, he didn't say nothing to me about it since school was out, but I was just looking through it. I'm just asking, I mean, it don't matter to me on that, so, but I mean, I know since school's been
but
out,
if we deal with
So
them
when they go
now,
back in August, so what, you wanna do them in July or something?
Or
Yeah, or closer, you know, closer to it, I mean,
All right.
that's up
the
to y'all.
only problem, there are some that, you know, won't hold up until, they need some work through the year sometimes. And then this may be, I don't know about all of them, but some of them don't have to be used, they're caving in and they're problems. I don't know,
Well, I
he needs
mean,
to
we can
kind of
approve them,
identify.
Mike can work them whenever he gets ready. How's that?
Well, yeah, but I'm getting at, what I'm getting at, he didn't identify them, but there are some that might need working now for the summer.
But there's no school buses.
I know, but we created a problem. That's what I'm saying, we created a problem before school, and now the school's out, this problem's still there though.
I got you.
I don't know, but I know there were some, in fact, you've done some that, well, hellhole and,
The only comment that I would make, number one, but there's a couple comments. Y'all got complete discretion to authorize or not authorize. That's totally in y'all's wheelhouse. If you don't want to do it, Mike doesn't need to do it, it won't be done. It's up to y'all.
I would like to see them be more specific if there's some that need doing now, and I understand
give
some
us
may
a
need
road
it.
or something.
Yeah, well, and the only other
No,
issue
this is the one.
that may be out there that y'all may or may not be aware of, I was listening this morning to the executive director of the Department of Education that was on the radio, and she indicated that there is talk that they're going to allow school districts to open up for the fall term as soon as the end of July. They let them come in and get started, sort of getting what they missed. They'll have the option to pick that back up at the end of the summer.
I think there's gonna be more coming by Tuesday or something.
Yeah,
As
I don't
far
think
as
we've heard it last.
a
20th.
catch up type summer school.
The only reason I
Next
mentioned
Tuesday,
that,
wasn't it?
Steve,
Well, the next Tuesday.
the only reason I mentioned that is there could be school buses running
Yep.
along with that reopening, so to speak. We don't know if that's gonna happen or not, but there could be school buses running a lot earlier than we're used to having.
Well, why don't we do this? Hey, Mike, why don't you just get with Randy, and at our next board meeting, we'll have them on there.
I think so, the ones that
Specific
need,
list.
that may need it,
Yeah,
yeah.
all right.
It just costs, it costs a lot of money to go around and work all these schools.
So you want to amend my motion to eliminate E off consent?
Right.
All right, so that'll be my motion to eliminate E off consent.
Second.
All right. Motion by Daniel, second by Brad. Any discussion?
Yeah, so we're gonna let him be, or get with him and be more specific if there's certain ones, and I can see that, but I can't see doing all of them.
That's why we
Yeah.
been working here in Lincoln.
Yeah.
Brian,
They
Right.
request when
is that your
Yeah.
motion?
Our sister-in-law, right across the street.
Is that all right?
Yeah, I think she just cut it up by it.
Mhm.
Failed house down there. Where's mama is?
Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right. All right, Mr. Harrison, you already started, so.
Finish it up.
Request approval for A and B AT&T permits. One's on Andrew Chapel, be installed between Baker Lane, and the other one is Gooley Shiloh Road.
All right, we have a motion.
Motion.
Can I ask Steve,
Second.
do you mind if I ask for a contingency to this? We got a claim notice from AT&T. We've actually gotten 2 or 3 claim notices on the same claim. I don't know anything about the claim at all, but they're claiming that Rankin County damaged AT&T infrastructure. The way that I handle all claims like that that come in from utilities that are accessing our right-of-way, I handle them all essentially exactly the same. I write them back and I explain to them, y'all are in our right-of-way with permission. It's all done by permit. Sometimes we damage y'all's stuff. A lot of times y'all damage our stuff, and we just kind of have a gentleman's agreement. We're not gonna be asking y'all to pay for every damage y'all create. Don't be asking us to pay for your damage. Okay? That's the way I handle it virtually all the time. And that has worked well for us. They
No,
haven't
not- I mean-
responded yet to my indication that we would like for them to close their file. They haven't responded yet. So what I'd like to do is to approve these permits contingent upon a written notice from AT&T that they are closing that claim.
Yep.
Okay?
Yes.
And then that way I can write them and say, we've got 2 permits that are ready, as long as I get a letter back saying that claim's gone. If y'all are okay.
And 90% of the time, if we tear one up, it's not marked correctly, or, we don't intentionally do it.
Usually I tell them, we'll deduct whatever you say is the damage from what you owe us,
Right.
and then we'll talk to you about that balance that you owe us later.
Okay.
Most of the time that works.
That's
All right, motion
motion.
by Steve,
Second.
second by Jared. You have a discussion?
I do. Not on this particular permit. Maybe. With all this, coronavirus and schools, what we were talking about, the schools are out and children are trying to keep up with their work at home. Well, in much of my area, and probably down
All of mine.
all the way down on the east side, there's no internet. There's no libraries. They, they're just at the mercy,
They're on their own.
yeah, of somebody coming over and telling them what they've got. I wish that there was some way that we could type for every 1,000 you do in an urban area, just give me 100 houses in a rural area.
Amen.
And just show we're trying to do something, because in the world that we have today, the internet, it's If you didn't know it before now, you know it now. The internet is your lifeline.
Well, C Spire's got a main line coming to Puckett, but they won't let you tie into it unless you got 800 and something people.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And I mean, it makes no sense.
Right.
So we got two options, either the federal government or the federal government and the state government are going to push that out. Possibly these rural electric power associations could be able to do that, but we're probably 10 years away.
At least
Southern
five.
Pine's not
Yeah,
gonna do it.
Yeah, I was
we're
just
way
gonna say
away
for-
from that being a
We
reality.
talked about it,
in the
and
rural
they
area.
sent a survey
The other
out.
way to
It's
do
gonna
it
cost you
is
that
for the
20.
private carriers to be told they gotta do it.
Yeah,
That's it.
yeah.
So the feds are going, we're trying to work with virus issues now. You can't get anybody to
Right.
think about rural broadband at this point up in DC. They're not talking about that. But really the option is we come up with a way to tell these carriers, if you're gonna do work in Rankin County, if we're gonna permit work in Rankin County, you gotta demonstrate tangibly how you're serving the rural areas.
Well, I know Jason Siegfried was pushing it,
I know, but
and
it's
they
just
pushed
going.
him right out of the job. So, all right, any other discussion? All in favor say aye. Ayes have it.
Thank you.
Hey, you got one more, don't you?
I took A and B, but yeah, if I can do B, AT&T on Gooley Shiloh.
No, the one over on Hugh Ward. They not used stuff.
The handheld, the
I'm
handheld,
gonna do that in-house.
that just
Well-
came in.
Do what?
He just sent it to Janice, but I'm gonna,
You're talking about the handheld that existed on Hugh Ward?
yes.
Okay.
Okay.
But we can go ahead and prove it. I mean, it's basically a board.
I know what
I-
a manhole is.
We can add it.
They say they call it a small
Stick
I
your-
thought we had to
handheld
act on
for
it.
sale. That's what they call it, small cell.
We do.
phone.
It's a man, it's actually a man, they call it, what we call in the sewer business a manhole, they call it a handhole. For some reason. I don't know.
Sounds better.
I'd like to add,
Handhole.
a handhole on Hugh Ward Boulevard for AT&T.
I'm tired of putting all our money in Hugh Ward.
What are they gonna do out there? They put one
They
in,
just going from one side of the road to the other to put two handholds in.
put handholds.
They had a permit, but it had done expired.
Oh,
Yeah, and it already existed, I think, the whole.
So is this a renewal? of
It's
a permit?
just a renewal of a
Renewal and extension
permit.
of an existing
Permit.
All right. Now, motion to add this item.
So moved.
Motion by Daniel,
second.
second by Jared. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it. Now, motion approved.
So moved.
Motion by
Second.
Daniel, second by Jared. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Timothy.
Come on up, Mr. Parker. I was sitting here looking at lighter fluid.
That's what it looks like.
It does.
Thank you,
Looks like
Mr.
it,
President.
It's a lighter fluid at the top.
What's that about water fluids?
That's why it was
Sorry
light
about
fluid.
Whatever works. Lighter fluid to clean your hands.
Yeah.
Mr. President, the first item we have is on the Gunner Road Improvements Clearing and Grubbing Project. We're requesting approval of payout number one in the amount of $46,360 to Pearson Dozer Service LLC for work performed and authority to issue the check.
I make a motion approved.
Motion by Jared,
Second.
second by Steve. Any discussion?
The, it looks, I was looking at it this morning, it's a pretty good little lane they've got cleared down through there.
He's made some progress on that east end.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, yeah. Yeah, that's the easiest end.
That's right, that was the low-hanging fruit there, as he goes down the bigger trees and the narrower area.
Right.
Didn't we give this a long time ago?
Yeah, but it rained for how long, the first 2 months, he couldn't even get in there.
His contract time expires sometime in May. I believe it's around the second week of May.
Yeah.
I mean, I knew we awarded it months ago, and this is just the first phase.
Yeah, well, he hadn't done anything. He's tried, and, one thing, even when it quit raining, the ground was, I mean, for a little bit, the ground be so wet, and he made a good point. If I start tracking in and out, I'm liable to break water lines or whatever, because it's just mud. But now he's moving. As soon as it's cleared up and he's going in it.
Okay.
So, I mean, I can't complain what he's tried to do because it hadn't been time to do it.
All right. Any other
In fact, the
discussion?
ground's still wet in a lot of places.
Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it.
Thank you, Mr. President. The second item is on the Mill Creek Bank Stabilization Protection at Woodlands Green Place. That's the NRCS project. We request approval of payout number 1 in the amount of $54,575.68 to MIMS Inc. and authority to issue the check.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Daniel, second by Jared. Any other discussion? Is MIMS a good company? Good reputation?
They perform well on this job, yes, sir.
Have they done other stuff for us?
We have worked with MIMS on multiple projects. He's got a project in Richland right now, Detention Pond, I believe. I'm not sure if he's done anything for the county. Trying to think. I don't remember, Jay, to be honest with
You
you.
do road work?
We haven't done any road work with MIMS.
All right. No other discussions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Mr. Slade.
Just as, before I get started on my section, just as a sort of a closing of the loop on the Mill Creek Bank Stabilization Project, that's a federal dollar project, grant funds via federal dollars. The county's not having to pay any of that money at all. It's an NRCS authorized project, and there is a reporting requirement. So the only thing that I'll point out about item B is we're going to probably have to settle up with NRCS and allow them some sort of report, visual opportunity for inspection, something like that, before we actually release those funds. I just wanted to make sure that you guys.
This was under that hazardous bank.
Yep.
That's correct. That's
Move
correct.
some trees.
EWP. Did we? We did have to move with tree, didn't we? That's right. It's mostly a riprap project though, and it's an erosion control measure, and we had 2 property owners that were about to lose their fence. So
lose more than their fence.
yeah, and so the issue here, just so that you guys have complete information about that, the county does not go in and implement any activity in these areas like this. It's purely private property, so I don't want you to get confused. We had an opportunity, and it's one similar to what we're looking at on the Oak Grove situation, Jay. That same process is now underway, where NRCS actually identified the place, the area, where there was a stabilization issue. And through their jurisdiction and through their federal mandate, they identified that, came to the county, we partnered together and worked that project that the feds could work. So the county is basically a pass-through, so to speak, of the federal funding that ultimately will end up with the contractor that did the work. Okay? But NRCS gets a say in where it's done, how it's done, who does it. So we need to make sure that we are clear with NRCS before we actually release these funds. We'll take care of that.
So if we're asked, and I'm sure you will be, this is not a county project.
Yeah,
It
so
is
it's
hidden, but I mean, it's.
that's correct. This is a federal project administered through the county.
You can't get something.
So our gentleman with the dog, the broke leg dog, is that the explanation to him was, we'll do everything that we can, but it's really going to fall in your lap. Try to figure out how the county can do it if it can. He's approached NRCS, and apparently that process is in process, and we may end up with another project very similar to this one there. Okay. Very good. They're very small and localized. So, we're really hoping as part of our drainage program that we can end up with a bigger lick somewhere that lets us solve lots of problems with the federal help. But that's a different discussion for a different day. Okay. So under my section, Mr. President, if we're ready to move on, item A is to set a public hearing for April 30th at 9 o'clock for the Charles Waker III as registered agent for Gray Lane nuisance property. This is a Terra Road in District 3.
I'll make a motion to set hearing.
All right, motion by Brad,
Second.
second by Jared. Any discussion? What is this, Brad?
I think it's like parking cars and trying to sell on Terra Road.
Okay, all right. No other discussion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it.
Mr. President, item B is acknowledgement of receipt from the Chancery Clerk, his annual refund of proceeds to Rankin County of $151,023. That, on behalf of the Chancery Clerk, I am making that announcement to you guys, and you are acknowledging receipt of those funds. The Chancery Clerk and the Circuit Clerk, by the way, has also tendered her excess funds somewhere in the neighborhood of about $90,000. Both of those tenders have been with the understanding and at the request that in the event, because of all these issues that we're dealing with, there is a funding shortfall in their respective offices, that they have the ability to come back and ask to dip into these monies to cover any shortfalls they might have. So I'm just putting that out there on the record.
Didn't we do that last meeting for Becky?
Well, I don't know if we officially acted on
The way
that.
Becky was doing it, she was going to hold her funds and then tender a balance, but she decided after talking to Larry to go ahead, tender the full amount and see if she can make it and then request anything back.
They don't know if they need it or not, so they just tendered everything rather than trying to hold back. Right? So I guess we would say that they both tendered these with clawback provisions in the tender. That's the lawyer talk.
Do
All
you need
right,
a
so
motion
if
for
y'all
that?
would just acknowledge that, yes, please.
We do need a motion.
Yeah, please.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Jared,
Second.
second by Brad, all in favor say aye. All opposed? I have it.
I've got Trey Jones coming. He'll be here in 5 minutes. I told him to be here at 9:30, and we're going to walk y'all through a very quick executive session and get you a couple of updates that I think will be important for you before
Hey,
we.
while I got you up here, I know this would go under additional business, but I got Slay up at the podium. I'm going to bring it up right now. One of these things I want to bring up is the renewal of Pafford's ambulance contract. I know that runs out, I think, in June of this year. I think June time
May
frame.
31, June 1.
Okay, so the 1st of June, right there. So what I want to do was, I brought something for y'all to see. I wanted y'all to see these things here. I pulled, this is January through November. You grab one of those. It's January through November, 2019. Safe paper?
Print it out.
They've been soaked in lighter fluid.
Yeah, that's right. That's why you got that disposable bottle up there. But you'll see the runtime. One thing that Pafford does that AMR and other companies we've had before is there's a thing in the contract called exceptions, which is if there's some kind of weather event, trains block it, some kind of other crazy thing that happens, they get
War,
exceptions to that
insurrection.
call. Right. They could have so many
Yes.
type of calls going on at one time to get an exception. The entire time we've had Pafford EMS on the calls, they've yet to take an exception on the run times. So there's not one exception in this thing. A lot of other ambulance companies fill their response times with exceptions. They do not. So what you see on the sheet that I printed out for you is a priority 1 and priority 2 calls. So the difference in priority 1 and priority 2, Brian, I guess the best way to describe priority 1 and priority 2 is one that's a life-saving emergency type event and one that's not a life-saving emergency type event. So a priority 2 would be a stomach ache, headache, somebody may
leg.
feel dizzy or something like that. Priority 1 would be cardiac arrest, respiratory failure, somebody true trauma, something of that nature. Right, a serious type call. Right.
COVID.
So I got a couple of marks you see on the side of the paper.
Yeah,
You see
it's
the
a 1 for
mark
the
is
felon.
my magical goal in my mind is 15 minutes. You see the percentages of calls, how they're broke down.
78, 75.
Yeah. So and at the bottom you see the average response time. So 10 minutes and 29 seconds is your average response time in Rankin County. That's an incredible time. Obviously your times go out longer when you respond out to further more rural parts of the area. But I don't know about y'all, but I don't get any type of calls complaining of response time stuff. So I know they've been Johnny on the spot in answering our departments on needing training or things of that nature. I spoke to Brian. I wanted him to kind of maybe paint a picture. If you had any questions for him as far as volunteer departments on how they've reacted or how they feel about Pafford's response, from the sheriff to Word. Y'all got any comments on Pafford? One way or the other? Brian, maybe?
I'll just say that from the comments that I get, everybody is very pleased with everything that Pafford has done. Of course, you get the occasional employee, volunteer, don't really see things eye to eye. But Pafford has always been very responsive. If we have an issue that we need to take care of, it's handled that day. So as far as complaints on times, I haven't had any in the past probably 5 months. And before that, it was just maybe like one complaint here or there that was extreme northern tip, a distance problem. But other than that, I've had a glowing remark from Pafford.
Sheriff, Word? Sheriff, you don't want?
I was just gonna tell you that, something that's not, I don't believe it's in any contractual obligation on behalf of Pafford, but I'll give you an example. We've got a prior to COVID-19. We've got one fire department that calls, requests, and receives anywhere between $1,200 and $1,500 of medical supplies about every 2 weeks. That's one volunteer department in Rankin County. Pafford supplies 100% of that to every department that we have. And I doubt there's anything in their contractual obligation that says they have to do that for us. I can't pull the numbers off the top of my head, but I'm sure Ms. Laura could go back and look at the amount of medical supplies that we have purchased out of our office since COVID-19, because we can't get anything from Patrick. They're like everybody else. They can't get it, so obviously they can't give it to us. So we've had to take care of our own people, and that is a pretty big expense. We save a ton of money by not having to supply our any emergency service in Rankin County with personal use medical supplies on call. So that's big.
To give you an example, just, I mean, they've been over backwards for us, but last night we had a dead, unknown, causes. Man came home, found his wife dead, and Patrick actually, went in before the deputy, went on the murder scene or what, the lady was dead. They went in and made sure it wasn't a COVID virus and everything for the deputies came in. So like I said, they're really stepping up and helping us out.
Yeah, I know fire department wise, what they've been doing is taking these, a lot of the COVID calls are the priority 2 type calls that aren't necessarily life threatening, maybe at a certain point. But they're asking the fire departments to stay outside, and they go in and take the exposure risk, which is a huge thing for us. I'd say they don't have to do it. They probably are supposed to do it, but a lot of departments across the state aren't having that luxury. So they're stepping up big time on that. So
What, are they suited up and everything?
Mm-hmm.
yeah, they're wearing their gear and everything else. We help them get dressed in the street, and they go in to
Yeah.
treat. So it's been a really good. They're really taking the blunt of the COVID calls for us right now. That's the reason why I think we don't have fire departments with a lot of exposures. We do have some fire departments with exposures. Brandon's had a pretty good exposure deal. Flowwood's had a couple. Pearl's had a couple. But with those being said, they've really taken care of our first responders. So.
Well, we have speaking of exposure, y'all talk to Dave Ruth?
Mm-hmm.
Seen them on the news.
Oh, really? Was this about
Similar.
okay. Yeah. Well, he doesn't have supplies to go do all this or a means of getting it done. He had been.
Has he talked to Word?
Yeah,
Ruth?
I put him in touch.
He's nowhere on a priority list to get things. I'm going to address that again on Thursday for our director's call again. I've got a tremendous issue, and I have since we started this COVID-19 response with the common denominator of failure on the COVID-19 statewide response, which is the Mississippi State Department of Health. When we go out and we have first responders, whether it's law enforcement, fire, EMS, it doesn't matter, that are exposed to COVID-19, we are no different than the lay citizen. There is no fast track way to get our people tested so that we can either remove them from the workforce that's going to respond or bring that workforce back in and keep them online. The sheriff ran into this just a couple of weeks ago. We've run into it, and it is a huge issue that we have. There is no priority allocation for first responders at all, none. And it's falling on deaf ears every time we bring it up.
And especially the problem is the testing. The problem with the testing is that they can't get the results back fast enough to get it back. So, for example, I'll speak on the fire departments for a second. Flowwood's had a case where they had 5 guys get tested last week, and they can't get the results back in less than 5 days. So the problem is maybe those people may not be a carrier of it, but they can't get those guys back on shift to work.
But it costs $500. You got to go to a private clinic.
Do you? Well, that's just.
I've had one. I was able to get. There's an MEA clinic that will test first responders. We got the results back in 2 days.
That's incredible.
That's what they charge us.
Right now, I have one employee that's positive for.
How much do they charge us?
I don't know.
So the other side of that, like for example, on Flowwood's issue, they went through UMC's stuff. So UMC does a test, run it, they submit to the Department of Health, and we're waiting 4 to 5 days to get results back, which is there's a lot of problems. That one, the one guy can't get clear. 2, the guy could be exposed, or could have it, and it expose everybody else that are around him. So that's kind of the problem in the first responder where it works right on.
Testing. They don't want to test you if you're asymptomatic.
That's right.
Don't want to put you, don't want to fool you. So there's a workaround to that too. Kind of feels hot in here.
Yeah.
Good. Hey, 10-8, let's go.
Yeah.
Pains of 10.
That's right.
So you're aware of it. You're going to try to address it. But it was
I have been trying, I promise you, there are so many people on the state level that absolutely hate me, because I ask the pointed questions. I really do. I'm not wanting to sit back and listen to this mediocrity when we got people that are being exposed to this and there's a prevention for it. It makes no sense to me. I don't understand it. So, I went over
We're
the
fixing that.
477 plan page, or page plan, but I don't see.
We might have to get Slade just to escort word around. Maybe the best way. All right, so back,
I've
go
got him
ahead.
on
Sure.
stage.
As long as, talking about the people that stepped up and done a job, now, it was a hefty bill when they came in and sprayed the buildings and everything like that. But the guy came back, he was here the same day I called him first go round. We used the safe room Sunday, Monday morning he was there, decontaminating the floor. So that E3.
Did you have a lot of people in there Sunday?
75.
Really? Wow.
So with all that being said, I want to make a motion to extend Packard's contract for the 4 years. I know the issue of the subsidy is still there, and to leave that in place until they get the remedy of whether it's legislation change, whether it's some type of specialized contract that will limit other providers in this county. But as is right now, continuing on until we get to the point of addressing the subsidy, whenever we can get the right work with that. So I probably need Slade to help me word the motion on how that needs to go.
That, if I could make one suggestion, Trey's coming and has been in lockstep with me looking at the issues of the contract. When he gets here and we have an opportunity to talk to you guys about a couple other things, what I'd like to do, Daniel, if we can, is when we come out of executive, let's take that motion at that time.
Okay.
If it's all right with you.
No, that's fine.
And we're going to, if the board is of a mind to do it today, I want to make sure we get it done today.
Yeah.
But there's a couple of points that I think might be helpful to hear from Trey, and he hasn't made it just yet. He ought to be here in a minute.
Yeah,
So,
I'm always late. Or he may be out
So-
of the hall.
is that all right with
Yeah,
you?
that's
if
fine.
we,
So we
if
just
we do
hold
that?
freeze on that
we're
right
talking
now?
about minutes here. Yeah.
Okay.
So we've got a couple of matters that I think would be helpful
All right.
for you guys to hear.
All right, Laura.
First item I have is on the CMRLS re-roofing project. There's a request for an additional cost in the amount of $2,000 for a mechanical engineer to review the existing mechanical system and authority to have an asbestos survey as required by DEQ. Janice, do you have those papers? Did you pass them out to him? I have a paper to pass out from Carl for each one of you. On the second page, listed in red, are some recommendations that he would like some guidance on to go along with this, so that they can proceed with the project. There's 5 items listed in red here that he would like to know which way to go with this. But you can see below in red, the cost that the mechanical engineer to review the existing system is a cost of about $500, and the asbestos survey is about $1,500.
Say that one more time.
On the
To review it is 5 and 15, okay.
right. But the items in red, he's just wanting a recommendation or direction on those. And I think especially, like 4, whether it's going to be the skylight, whether it should be replaced or completely removed.
Remove skylight,
Okay.
Yeah.
don't want them on the roof.
Okay.
All they are is a potential leak. I think we talked about, I think he even suggested removing it.
Is this that flat roof you're talking about?
I believe, yeah.
So what's this concrete ledge? What is that? Number 3. No?
Number 3 on what?
In red, the recommendations.
Oh.
Concrete ledge, I guess, gutter type
Is that up
system.
top?
This is existing concrete
That's that-
ledge.
You mean talking about that flat roof that's got the like brick ledge or concrete ledge around it?
The top of it?
Yeah.
Yeah, you got a little ledge there, if you got a flat roof. a concrete ledge.
So he wants
And all
us
that
to-
water's running down in the holes in the corners or whatever.
Right.
And he said it should be either repaired or replaced, depending on what's most economical.
I would say that that's what we need to do. Just look at it and see which is best.
Well, I mean, repair it or replace, is it too bad to repair? I mean, that's kind of open.
Yeah, I don't think they, it don't look like they know yet.
How do you replace it though? Tear it all out, redo it?
I guess on all of these, it should be what is the best and most
Yeah.
economical, except for the removal of the
Yeah.
skylight.
You know, taking that concrete out, but replacing it, that's gonna be a dial pin and everything.
Yeah, because it's gonna be tied into the roof structure.
If that's the way it was, if it was put
It's
on
gonna
all
be-
in one
it's gonna be
piece to start
expensive.
with,
It's gonna be expensive price.
if it was put on all at one time.
Yeah.
It's just salt cuttings. I don't know about that's gonna work. It's like repair it. It can't be bad enough, they can't repair it.
So basically, the motion though on this is for the additional cost request.
500, 1,500?
Yes.
All right. Okay, do I have a motion to approve him getting these, looked at? The mechanical inspected and,
And the asbestos survey.
I'll make a motion.
all right, motion by Brad.
We're just looking at it.
We're
right
just
now.
looking at,
No,
it, not spending,
we're looking-
spending just to
Okay.
Right, we
pay
do have
somebody
to
to look at
spend
it.
this money to have this
Yeah,
looked
I
at.
second.
All right, motion by Brad, second by Jared. Any other discussion? So where is the asbestos?
Well, I have one, the
Is the
units,
asbestos supposed to be on the roof? That's what we're looking at, right, is the roof.
only the roof. And they're just checking the units out to see if they, because they're old units.
Right, to see if they need to be repaired, replaced, or if they can be moved and then moved back.
And they're on the roof.
Which library is it?
One of those.
Yeah.
Okay, because if they're on the roof, they're not that hard to replace.
Yeah, well, it's gotta be, I guess.
So I'm just wondering,
We got
yeah,
3 layers of shingles. Is one of those maybe possibly one?
Yes, sir.
And we're talking about either removing them or leaving it there and putting a roof on top of it.
Yes.
So
I'd like
one
to-
of
If
them
you
is-
put on top of it, you wouldn't have to.
You wouldn't have to mess with the asbestos.
That's right.
I'm
Right.
curious about the skylight removal. You're gonna probably impact and create some potential friable situation there around the removal of the
You
skylights
can frame
or the
across it.
replacement. So there may be some
they
abatement.
talking about just the removal of it, the disturbing it.
So then we want to put the roof on top of the other ones then?
Probably be the cheapest way.
The only advantage of taking it off really is the weight.
Yeah.
You're taking weight off.
Yeah. Well, I know if it's asbestos there, we're gonna have to
Well, I
spend a
know,
bunch of money abating all that, and they'll probably have to move out, so they're not there now anyway.
but what I'm getting at, though, if you leave it, but like Greg said, if you're moving a skylight, you're gonna have to disturb a little bit of that area. So I guess that, but the skylight is nothing but a leak waiting to happen
Yeah.
over time.
Yep.
I would never recommend skylights on a roof.
All right, so the only thing they're doing is looking at it right now, so.
Yeah.
And we'll know if they,
What
we
the
don't have to
figure.
do any of these other red recommendations
Yeah,
till
but
we.
I can't
find
imagine
out
a
that.
concrete wall being damaged that bad, it'd have to be replaced. I mean, how do you damage that?
It's
just a-
over time, water getting in it and freezing, cause little cracks.
Maybe, yeah,
They could
you
probably
think they could
mud.
route, mud
Yeah.
that, yeah.
Stucco it or something, you know?
Yeah.
Smear or something.
Anyway, all right, we're just looking at it, that's fine.
Okay, so we got a motion and a second to pay to get them inspected, the mechanicals and the roof for asbestos. All in favor say aye. Ayes have it.
Next item is authority for the county administrator to execute a limited power of attorney on behalf of Rankin County Board for the transfer of dealer warranty for the 2021 Kentworth W900L lowboy tractor truck as delivered on April 8th of 2020. This was something new in the paperwork that I've never signed before,
Okay.
and so I gave it to Craig, and he just suggested we put it on here since it's a power of attorney.
All right,
It's limited. It's just affects the warranty.
have a motion?
Motion.
Motion by Steve,
Second.
Second by Brad, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it.
The next item is authority to amend the April 2nd, 2020 approval of a lowboy tractor truck lease commitment with Trustmark from a 1-year to a 4-year lease at an interest rate of 1.80.
I thought we said 4.
I thought we
When
were
it-
looking at what the cost was gonna be,
Interest.
Right.
I was
When-
thinking if we were like lower than 2%, we could go with the lower.
But
commitment.
when we approved it,
Yeah.
it must have been my error. I had everything at a 1 or 2 year, whichever was most cost effective. And so the one was, but Mike said that on this lowboy, he wanted a 4-year.
I know, but I thought we amended the motion last time to say 4 on that one.
Did we to say 4? Okay, well, this is, but the interest rate changed, so let's go
Oh,
ahead and
all
approve it. It
right.
changed, the interest rate changed from 1.143 to 1.80.
All right.
It went up.
Motion.
That was our low, that was going 4 years on it.
Have a motion?
Motion.
Motion by Steve,
Second.
second by Daniel, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it.
That's all I have.
Hey, I got one thing on additional business before we go into
All right.
executive session. One of the things I want to bring up was the need for cardiac monitors in certain places in the county where we got volunteer firemen that have advanced life support response capabilities. So we've got 2 areas in the county that we have advanced life support guys that are volunteers in that community. One of them is in Cato, one of them is in Walters. Those guys need these heart monitors, these life pack monitors, to be able to operate under that capacity. The problem is they're pretty expensive, but it's, to me, in my opinion, well worth every penny we can put to put these life-saving devices in these advanced life support guys' hands to be able to function in their communities. Like I said, it's Cato, Walters on the same point. And Brad
They
called
have
it.
them.
Huh?
They do, they have them.
They need
They-
them. They don't have them.
they
They have
don't
the
have 'em.
personnel that are they're paid firemen somewhere else that live in that community that can operate these life-saving devices.
Everywhere else has them.
A lot of the departments in the county have them,
I thought so.
but Florence has several. Monterey's got several.
I thought so.
Reservoir's got several. But Cato and Walters have 2 advanced life support guys that are volunteer firemen there that need these type of devices to be able to function. The reason I want to get 3 is, for some reason, we don't have our EMS coordinator. He didn't have a monitor, and he desperately needs one. He's responding countywide on that same side. So I know Brad called me. We talked about it for a while the other day on the monitor side of it. So I want to make a motion to purchase 3 of these monitors, one for Cato, one for Walters, and one for Grantham to have in his vehicle. They're $25,000 apiece.
And Daniel,
What
these
they
are,
are.
these are COVID required, these would be COVID required monitors, wouldn't they?
They could
So
be,
they-
absolutely.
yeah,
They could be
so-
used on COVID type calls.
So this emergency situation we're dealing with COVID is the primary reason why we want to go ahead and take action on this now?
That's correct.
Okay.
That's why we want to put that right
Talk
now.
about that.
Absolutely, absolutely. So
Okay.
we had Brian to go in and quote us some prices on it.
So we get reimbursed for this?
Possibly. This will be one of our expenditures, but this is a life-saving
If we
piece of
could,
equipment.
why wouldn't they just put this in for their MSO whatever grant?
Well, they might, but that goes to Pafford's, who's already buying 3 additional ones already. So we need the 3 additional ones here in the county for our volunteer guys and for Grantham to have in his truck.
So the 3 they're getting, they're keeping themselves.
But they're dispersing those out. Brian can
Yeah.
probably talk more to that.
It's like with all our EMSOF funds, anything we purchase, whether it be stair chairs, suction units, anything, Life Pack 15 monitors, goes to Pafford and it goes on their transport units. That's the way the grant is written by law. They have to keep it, so.
This is
This would stay with us then.
You just stay with the volunteer.
Yes, it would
Correct.
keep one at Cato, keep one at Walters, and then I would have
and
one
in
to
his truck on the same point.
And if
float.
one of the certified guy that's qualified to run this, if for some reason he moves or whatever, it will come back to the county and we can give it to another
To another
volunteer
department. Yep.
if they need it. Unless they can,
And just to top on what Daniel was saying with the paramedic, as an advanced life support person, I'm only able to operate at about 60% of what I'm capable of doing without one of these monitors. There are a lot of critical drugs, cardiac drugs and stuff that we're not allowed to administer without this monitor being in place already on the patient.
I had no idea Brian didn't have one in his truck. I mean, that's a huge life safety tool that he needs. Same way in Cato and same way in Walters needing those devices.
I just want to throw this out there, just to remind you, since Brian's up there. Brian is also attached to the sheriff's special response team as a tactical medic as well. When they go out, he is with them.
Oh, so we can take out of his budget, is that what you're saying?
There you go.
Absolutely. If option one falls through.
Thanks.
do option two.
Thanks, Mike.
So,
Good job.
just wanted y'all to know that.
Bringing it
so
forward.
speaking of the money side, one of the things that Word does over there, for example, last year, he returns almost 8 to 9% of his budget back to general fund. So he keeps his budget very lean at the EOC side.
Hey, how did the others get bought?
The county just bought them throughout time frame.
Oh,
There's a list right now, and they going
Yeah,
down
Brian's
the list.
got a list of all the departments that had them, that they bought them over time.
Yeah.
The problem is these departments have never needed them because they didn't have the personnel that could operate them.
And we got a lot of paramedics that work right now with
The volunteer departments.
volunteer
Yeah.
fire
So
departments.
as a result
How many
of-
departments need them overall?
Two.
That's why we were going to get it to
Yeah.
everybody that needed
Yeah.
it.
There's no
So-
need to put one where there's not a
Yeah.
certified
Correct.
person.
Correct.
I
Right.
know that.
Yeah.
So like,
That's.
I'll give you an
That's what
example.
we got,
And
like-
y'all
like
certify,
Florida or
these are the
something.
ones that go to Hines,
Yeah,
that they
give
get
us an example,
certified.
Brian.
Yes.
So we certify them anyway through the county when they go.
Yeah, that or like in our example here, one works for the Pearl Fire Department. They sent them. Just to give you an example of Star Fire Department, I contacted the chief yesterday, and they just don't have the personnel that would use this equipment. So they're one of the departments, one of the few departments that won't have this piece of equipment.
Call out the ones that already have monitors, Brian.
Already, Southwest, Cleary, possibly Cato here soon, Florence, Langford, Monterey, Pelahatchie, Puckett, Reservoir, and then Walters.
Okay.
They're all being utilized.
Yes.
They all have people that can run them. So my
Pretty,
motion.
pretty much every call.
Yeah. So
You
my
wanted 3 of them, $75,000.
yeah. So my motion is to purchase those out of general fund money. One for Grantham's truck, Cato and Walters. So that's going to be my motion.
All right.
And the motion will clearly attenuate the basis for this being the
COVID-19.
county's appropriate response to the emergency.
Correct.
As
All right.
declared.
We have a
Correct.
So,
motion
so
by
we,
Daniel
do we need to
add
add
sign-
anything in there as far as being able to be refunded or possibly refunded?
It's when we mention the COVID stuff, it
I mean,
covers.
So we're gonna be able to move
Possibly.
that forward, yeah.
Yeah. So that's my motion to add it.
I'm gonna second.
All right, motion by Daniel, second by Brad. Any other discussion to add this item?
I'll make a recommendation that we purchase them out of the volunteer fire funds, since it will get replaced anyway, because that's where they're gonna be inventoried into.
Yeah. Is that money available in there?
You should, yes.
Okay.
Okay, good.
All right.
Good.
You know that,
Thanks,
Brian?
thanks, Laura.
All right.
All right,
Okay.
got a motion and a
Any other
second
discussion?
to add.
All in favor say aye.
Uh,
All right, now,
And one more thing about this. Any volunteer can use it, but there's a code that you gotta put in this machine for the advanced person to be able to use it. And, so it's not, if this one particular person's not there on that call, it can still be utilized.
as a defibrillator or something like
Defibrillator or
that.
whatever.
So it can still be utilized.
Brad,
in
are
the
you
same-
getting on the phone? Are you doing this now?
I'm not gonna be running this machine.
He might be. He
But
just
I
don't
know a
know it
little
yet.
bit about it.
He might be using it. You don't know. All right. So then my motion's to purchase those three. Make that
All right,
motion
motion by
approved.
Daniel,
Second.
second by Brad. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Uh,
Ayes have it.
Thank you, Brian.
You got
Hey.
any other money you want to spend?
Not right now. Not right now. Hey, Miss Laura, what I want to do though is I want to put some emphasis when we get this over to purchasing that this is important. I mean, I know a lot of times we get over there with a vague kind of concept of not running things through purchasing. This is one of these things that need to be
soon.
maybe hand delivered over there and ask them to proceed with this promptly.
And who had the quote?
Brian's got it. Yeah, Brian's got all the quotes. But Brian, if you'll get those to Miss Laura, I'd like for you to take them over there and be sure we get this ordered quickly.
I will check them over there.
Thank you.
I have two small things under additional business, shouldn't take long. Little Woods, Mike, Little Woods, was supposed to be a lake, and we cut them off with the amount of time.
Supposed to be a lake?
Yeah, yeah, the guy he owns a development that the plat has been approved for probably 2 years, and he come in and wanted to build a lake on the front side of it, which would have been in 2 of the lots. sounded good. I mean, it sounded like it was
Using that dirt for, is that what you're doing, using sites or whatever?
and selling it.
Yeah.
But it ended up, it's a big hole, and we shut him down. His time ran out, and it didn't look like a lake.
He sold the dirt and left the hole.
Yeah, his conditional use permit's run out, and his DEQ permit, I think, has
I
run
wanna
out too.
push it through DEQ or however we got to for it to be reclaimed before we do anything else with him.
Okay.
No more developments anywhere until he reclaims that.
Where is he at with his development?
Well, he has more than one development. You
I
talking
mean,
about this
this one,
development?
yeah.
It's been approved. It was approved, and he had sold a lot, and then it was moving slow, so he felt like, this is what he described to us, that if he could build 4-acre lake on 2 of the fronts of the lots, it would help move, the lake out front. Anyhow, I don't know if his intentions were that to begin with or whatever, but it ends up being a big hole.
So it's not even finished for a lake?
No.
It's just a hole where he dug?
Yeah, and it's, Little Woods Road it's just really uglied up.
So how's he expecting to sell lots then? Or is he walking away from it?
That's what it looks like.
I got you. All right.
I'll
And
communicate.
he's got
to
some
him.
other projects or developments that I don't think we'll, until we get this fixed, we don't need to go any further with him on any development.
Can we do that?
Agreed. I think we can suspend, any additional activity in consideration of any new development activity or a second phase or anything like that. But there's a lot of options that we can use.
What, on his other developments?
Yes.
So can he continue to work on his other developments currently? It's already
It
approved?
depends on how y'all want to handle it.
Well, I think, those that are approved and he's sold lots or whatever, and the plat, everything is complete, I think we
We need.
I don't wanna mess
revisit
up
the
another
issue.
one, I don't wanna
Yes.
shut him down and have another screw up.
Right.
But he just needs to get
I
really
see no
busy.
issue at all with us tying activity at Little Woods to continuing activity elsewhere.
So before he
Tying
can
those
progress and do anything additional projects, he's gotta get this addressed.
That's
So
correct.
he can continue working on the project that he's, like
That have
where he
been
sold
approved.
some lots. Yeah.
This been approved and.
Right, and he's doing good on them. Okay.
I think short story is he bought this land over at Little Woods and it just hadn't moved as good, and this was a way to kind of get some income coming in, was start moving some dirt. I mean, he had a design and everything of a pond, there, but he just, I don't know what's happened there. I really don't.
Well, it was really woody, real hilly. The people that live around there, it was a wonderful place. But the first thing they did is go in there and clear cut it. Took all the trees off, and it looked like a bomb went off in there.
Yeah.
Now you got these real steep pointed hills and
Right.
valleys, and it's not very sellable. And now it's also got a big hole in the middle of it, or in front of it, that is not holding water for a
He
pond.
got all the income he could off the trees and the dirt, now he's got this mess.
That's what it appears.
Yeah. Okay, I don't
I'll
blame him.
get with Renee and see where we're at on that,
But we just need
Steve,
to
and
communicate that clearly to the gentleman. That we have concerns about Little Woods. We know he has other activity going on. We probably need to get our heads together and figure out where this is headed.
So do we need to make a motion on that to?
Just acknowledge that that's how we're gonna handle it.
Okay.
There's really nothing for you to decide on at this point. We need to get more information. Steve, unless you see an issue, it seems appropriate to me to give the man an opportunity to explain himself.
I would like for him to use whatever methods the DEQ says to reclaim it.
I wouldn't just rely on them though, 'cause that ain't gonna be much.
ain't gonna be
No, it may take him 6 months.
Maybe a conference with him to help him understand the seriousness of it would be helpful. What I'm trying to do is keep from shooting across his bow when a much less direct approach can get the job done. Let's save our powder.
Okay.
And then if he doesn't demonstrate an appropriate response, then we'll shoot.
All right. My next thing is roof on the Leesburg voting precinct, have we made any progress inspecting that, or? About a month ago, the roof's leaking, and we brought this before the board, and our maintenance guy was gonna look at it, probably just change out the screws. It's a tin roof over there. I don't know if he's,
I'll get with him.
I hadn't heard that he's been out there to look at it. It's probably been 2 months ago.
I remember talking about
Change out those screws and shoot you some silicone down that hole, but that's.
it. Well, the new screws got that little hood on them now, where
Yeah.
the old ones are just a washer and it's squeezed out when you tighten them down.
If you get, like, if you want to be older roof, shoot that silicone and put that screw.
All right, so, any other additional business before we move on to executive session? Okay, do I have a motion to discuss the need to go on executive session? Caroline, you need us?
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's got something later.
Hey, Wanda, while she's doing that, did you get those, charts? Can, oh, okay, well,
She needs to be recognized today. She's got some.
hey, Wanda, in lieu of taking up time, will you just later on
Okay.
email that to each one of us, to where then we'll all have it?
You
And we
need
can
him,
look at
hey,
the work.
is everything over there okay?
Sure,
If
sure.
You need to talk to us?
No, you
Good morning.
Each one of us.
Caroline's gonna give us an update.
This is why I just stick my head in and hope nobody sees me. Just real quick, as this week kind of goes on, I'm working with IT to try to get some things updated on the website, to be able to make appointments and kind of do some other things. I'm not broadcasting that right now as far as other than anybody that's watching this meeting, but IT's been great. Sheriff's Department has been fabulous, y'all. Like, they have gone above and beyond.
Just the sheriff's department or the sheriff?
All of them. All of them. Like, I can't, really, but I can't give them enough kudos right now. IT has been wonderful too. Y'all, this is a curveball and a learning experience for all of us, but I think we are amazingly making it through us. My girls across the hall are busting butt. Y'all just need to know that. We are constantly getting calls. We're trying to address what any concerns are. New car purchases has been the biggest, I guess you could say, issue. We're working through those. At this time, my plan is to keep the way we're doing it for the next couple of days, especially if I get some of this IT stuff worked out. It'll be much smoother. When we do open back up, as I figure that we will slowly do, I figure it'll be drive-through only again, just to protect and just to give y'all a little heads up as to where my logic comes from on this. I personally served someone who tested positive the next day after I served them, and several of their family members have since tested positive. So, and I know Craig and I talked about this, and I don't know how where y'all are, but in 4 days, we served over 1,500 people. That was me, Melissa, and several other people going out to the cars. That was after I had personally served the person that tested positive the very next day. So, just know, y'all, that we see a lot of people coming in our office all the time. And so, I know it's not ideal for me to not be wide open, but please just be respectful that, that was me and my family was involved. So I'm trying to look out for all the 100,000 other people that everybody needs a car tag, everybody needs property taxes paid. So that's just kind of the logic as to where I am and to why I'm doing it the way I'm doing it. It seems to be going smoothly. The biggest issue that I have right now is phones. We have 2 lines, y'all. 2. That's it. And I've got people 8 to 5 every day answering those lines. That's on a normal day. So I know that y'all are getting calls about people can't get through, but y'all, we get that 365 days a year because I have 2 lines. So that's another thing that I'm going to be talking through with, I don't know if that's IT or how we need to work at that, but that seems to be the biggest hang up, no pun intended, with us right now is really the phones. But again, that is I mean, y'all can attest to that too, these other offices, that's 365 days a year that, I mean, if you can't get through, you can't get through. I don't know what happens when you're not on that second line, I don't know where it goes, but, just,
I've actually been talking to some of them, directing them to your email.
yes.
Telling them if
Yes,
this is a
and
new
that's
tag,
that's
instead of just sending them to you.
And that's the only way to do it right now. So just know from y'all's perspectives, those are the IT website stuff and phones. Those are some major things that our office needs some revamping on, and that's what I'm working on. So if I come begging, that's why. Any other questions for me?
Well, I got one. You just said, you were going out to the cars? or
Yes.
something?
Because it is not feasible to operate a drive-through at a single, because at that point you are having if they have to do a new car tag, if they have a new title, that's paperwork that takes 5, 10, sometimes 15 minutes per instance.
What I'm getting at though, if you just had to drive through, even though it was a nightmare and it takes a long time, they'll either deter them and they'll move on, or
And that's what we initially,
here for
and that's what we
30
initially
minutes.
thought when we went with the drive-through idea, and it didn't, I mean, we could watch them pull in, and you'd see them kind of see the line, and then they'd hop right in it. So I'm sure it did deter a few people,
Right.
but not the magnitude that we expected, which is fine. I mean, we were able to
No,
address
those people,
and,
if you gotta eat a tag, you gonna sit in line.
absolutely,
So-
I
absolutely.
mean, you go out in Richland, it's completely closed.
It is completely closed right now,
Well, I
yes.
mean, if the drive-through.
But if the drive-through, yes, we
If
would,
it was open,
Correct.
again, they just know we're gonna have to sit all the way
Correct.
out to the road.
that's correct.
So you're gonna
Yep.
have Scott put something on the website as to when you're gonna open back up?
Yes, and that's what we've been telling people, just kind of check back and see. I'm really waiting on some of this stuff that he and I can work on. We're working on that today for some things that we can do on the website that will enable them to do a little bit more with that. Because right now, every email is coming to me because I don't have another option. Like, we don't have a ticket system, we don't have a whatever, so every single email request is coming to me, and I'm having to answer those as I can get to them.
Like, I got a guy that's needing a handicap tag,
Yeah.
and he's called, talked to you about yesterday, he called numerous times, and I know after it just rings, well, you really wondering, are they open? I mean, I do the same thing.
It is.
But,
And the other thing too, and this is for all departments, because all departments are working with skeleton crews right now. If they're not getting another department, they call every number. So we're not only getting our calls, and that's every department. It's, if you don't get somebody, you call the next number. And so we're also getting every other department's. You know, like I had a lady the other day who wanted to build a swimming pool. I mean, I can't tell you how many times that went back and forth.
That was my wife.
I can't, no, it wasn't. It was not.
Just keep sending her to the next line.
Well, you know, I mean, really, but so, and I mean, what,
And there is a recording on there that you're the second after the states that
Denied.
contact by phone or email. Your
Denied.
message is the second message on there for you.
right,
And then
right.
they go through the extensions. So they have extensions if they will just listen.
Yes.
Community development, the number's out there.
Yes.
So, you
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
a lot of people don't want to listen.
They don't, and they don't understand. And just like that, prioritizing what is immediate and important. You know, to me, getting these new tags out of the way so they're not somebody that has to sit in line, because again, that stuff that takes. I'm trying to do it in the manner that if it's something that's paperwork and going to take a long time, we're letting you come in.
can he mail that in and you mail it back to him?
Yes, sir. There's pretty much anything can be mailed or online, with the exception of anything title related, because the state has to have.
It is expired.
You can't renew it.
You can't renew it online if it's expired, and that is a state issue. That has nothing to do with our office.
So how are you going to, are you working with Harris Computer to change
Yes.
the software, allow you to do it?
Well, so here's the kicker on that too. Delta,
because
which
you
is
couldn't get in
Harris,
here.
does not do that for us. The state will not change, like, to renew an expired tag. That will never be an option according to the state
I'm talking about,
for things that they can do online. So the
I'm
kicker.
talking about right now, the people who are expired tags or can't get a new tag within the month period, how are you gonna go back and put it in without the penalties? Your
We have
software
a way.
check.
Yes.
Well, it's
do that.
expired because he couldn't get here.
But that's the thing, well,
He couldn't get in.
Well, it depends. If it's expired within a certain date range, there will not be penalties. Now, if it expired in December.
No, I think it's just expired. He's trying to, it's
Do
either
what?
is or fixing to, and he's trying to get it. And so.
Right, no, that's what I'm saying. If it falls with, I mean, again, I have printed documentation from the state as to what is acceptable.
We got that.
Yeah.
We got it.
So if it falls within a certain period, you can absolutely no penalties. Again, if it's December,
Mine was
that's
November.
a whole different story.
What was they? But Caroline, on Jay's question,
Uh-huh.
the system for the tags is not Delta, it is
Correct.
Marvin.
The system, the tag system is through the Department of Revenue. It's Marvin.
it's
It is
not
not
Delta.
Delta.
Hey Janice, can you go work with her to get Brad and I tagged for our trucks?
Yes, well, Kim should have y'all's inventory, and I don't know if they've already been applied for or not. So they should be applied for.
It doesn't go through her office. It goes.
Yeah, we send those
State
off
government.
to,
We sent those off.
sometimes, and I understand they're pretty backed up on things, aren't they, Caroline?
Oh, the state, so Department of Revenue is essentially closed. While they're not saying that, they are. I was on a conference call last week. They may have one individual going in on a every third day basis. And that include, now their helpline is supposed to be working remotely. That's kind of not seeming to be the case. Anything that is being processed or mailed out from their office, I do not think is happening right now. So, that impacts, yeah, I mean, really, that impacts, we can take it to a certain point and then, 30 days from now, and that's the flip side of this. We can make it happen right now, but 30 days from now, because the state is so backlogged, we're gonna get that flood of questions. Well, I did this in your office on such and such day, why have I not gotten it? Or I did this on your office, so it's not only for now, when we open back up, we're gonna have the floodgates again for different reasons. So,
All right.
Yep.
Well, hang in there.
oh, we're good. We're good. Do y'all need anything?
You took care of me.
They need a couple tags.
We can do that.
I've
All right.
got 4 that
Caroline,
expired.
you need something changed on that message. I have it printed out and give it to you.
No, for right now, I may change it Friday.
Yeah, we definitely have to update our website, because you can
Yes.
see when you put stuff out there.
Bob tried that. Bob tried to do a website 3 years ago. It's impossible.
Hey,
Absolutely.
whenever
It's
that
an impossible
happens, can you
task.
send us an email?
For sure.
I've given up on it.
Whenever you get updates
Scott's really
on
been
stuff,
trying
can
to
you
help.
send us an email? We'll
impossible.
know you're opening up or whatever.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
It's
I'll
impossible.
let you
So
know.
we can
Yeah.
pass it on when people
Yes.
ask us. Yeah.
Yeah.
Bob came in, I think in the
Absolutely.
first couple of months of our meeting, Bob said, I want the website changed. Where it's cleaned up.
Yeah.
Hadn't moved it yet.
Well, we already got.
Actually, it started
the authority
before Bob
to
was here.
Revamp it, but.
See, I think it's
we kept losing
impossible.
our
I think it's
directors.
impossible.
Just when you get,
I'm,
I think it's impossible.
I can battle. Scott has really been working on
It's
it.
impossible. I don't think you can do it.
All right.
He's got some changes made.
Cure cancer fast, you can change website in Rankin County.
Anybody else got any questions for Caroline?
Just please tell, your constituents too, that we do have people here all day, every day, and, we're working through it just as fast as we can, but, so please keep in mind what's priority, and that we're gonna work with them on the flip side of this.
All
Good
right.
deal. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Sean.
Before we
Thank you.
move,
Uh-huh.
I just want to recognize our first responders, the EOC, Mike Harrison's group, Sheriff, Sunday when the tornadoes came through. We had a huge tree to total a house in Pelahatchie. And we were tracking it at the EOC, the storm, and so we were 7 minutes behind it, probably something. When I got there, Sheriff's Department was already there. Some of Mike Word's people were there, Mike Harrison. In 30 to 40 minutes, they had pretty much secured the area. And I mean, this was a 150-year-old oak tree right across the house. There was someone in it when it fell, and it was not safe. I mean, it was still trying to crack through. And it's just amazing to see these guys that were EOC, and we see them in here like this. and they're out there suited up with chainsaws on top of a house trying to cut the limbs where Mike could get it off with the trackhoe. And the sheriff's department, and then it's raining, and there was nobody out there that, I mean, was complaining. They were just all jumping in and getting us
Getting it
secure.
done.
And I don't know, it was heartwarming to see all those guys working together like that.
Amen. We got some great folks.
Yeah.
For sure.
I handed one of them a chainsaw too. I think the chain was on backwards though.
Why didn't you just put it on your winch and pull it out?
I was.
All right, do we
I
have a
was
motion?
going
to
to,
go into We have a motion discussing the need to go into executive session.
So moved.
Personnel litigation.
Second.
Second by Steve for personnel litigation. All in favor say
Hey,
aye.
Slay. Aye.
Aye.
Slay.
Aye.
Hey, don't we need probably grant them in Word?
Yes, I think so.
Huh?
All right.
So y'all wait to go into, I just wanna tell y'all about Tyson Fees, they've been, really good, they taught us the other day, Paul Hodgman, they were picked up, they gave us 100 cases, 150-pound cases of chicken. Good enough, every employee got 4 whole chickens cut up, ready to cook. So I think say, well, we're grilling chicken today, so y'all can get a tray and, feeding all the employees, they've all.
Harrison, you need to be listening to this.
Yeah.
Mike, he needs to.
Were y'all grilling on the outside?
Yeah, over at
When's it gonna be ready?
11.
All right,
Right.
Trey, you got limited time.
Well, hang on, we gotta go into executive session. All right, I have a motion to go into executive session.
We made it in second.
Motion by Brian,
Second.
second by Steve. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it.
Good morning. How you guys?
Hold on.
Good.
Get that recording on.